As a psychologist, from day one of my undergraduate training, there was this particular principle that they drummed home again and again and again. And it's the principle of do no harm. This is the core of what they call the Hippocratic Oath, which for the medical profession is an absolute necessity. And really, it's the driving force behind what I'll call the approach to the helping professions. And I've seen many leaders who try and take this principle and apply it to their leadership. And it's not a bad approach, really, because in reality, workplace leaders, they have the power to cause a lot of harm for their staff and the people that they lead. It is probably a defining characteristic of poor or destructive leadership. But too often, I see leaders who misspell in their approach and they swap out the M for the D. See, what staff and leaders both need to remember is that it's do no harm and not do no hard. The intent behind the do no harm principle is to always be working towards the best interest of those they are serving and help them achieve a better outcome. This means that they end up in a better place over the long term. It does it means that we don't necessarily avoid parts of the journey, the hard parts. And nor does it mean that we completely avoid everything that might be potentially harmful. I want you to think about a psychologist in their office, and maybe they get clients to relive the trauma in order to discuss it and process it and deal with it. Or maybe they're dealing with an individual who has arachnophobia, and they might get them to hold a spider in order to overcome their fear and anxiety. Now, the key in both of these scenarios is the support and the scaffolding that the client receives as they deal with hardship. See, having people face historic evils or tragedies or even spiders alone and without support, it's always going to be harmful. It increases the trauma effects on the brain and the body, and it often entrenches psychological problems. But with the right training and with the right support and scaffolding, people can face these scenarios and learn to manage them and potentially even overcome them entirely. Now, they're both hard, but those individuals are stronger and more capable because they end up facing it. They end up in a much healthier place at the end. Now let's move from the psychologist couch into the workplace office. And when I see managers confuse harm with hard, I see them ending up adopting a mindset that I call a protector mindset. They want to protect their team from all the potential harms in the workplace. Whether that be they're protecting them from the constant demands from the executive or the competing priorities with other departments, or maybe even just big workloads. The intent is admirable, and life might be easier in the short term. But what these leaders often fail to realize is that they are robbing their team of opportunity. The opportunity to rise to the occasion and meet the demands of the executive, or to develop this negotiation skill sets, that are needed in order to negotiate and navigate competing priorities with other departments. Or maybe it's the opportunity to figure out how do I shoulder an increased, bigger workload and become more effective as a result. They fail to realize that there is no high performance without high pressure. And so, in protecting their team from the pressure, they are actually preventing high performance as well. Ultimately, when I look at it, this protector mindset that many of these managers and leaders adopt, it also stems from avoiding hardship. Too often the leader that says do no harm is the one that's avoiding tough conversations, failing to address conflict or provide accountability. They lack confidence to address leadership challenges because they've never built the capability to do so themselves. And their habitual avoidance of hardship not only reinforces that cycle in themselves, too often it's transferred to their team as well. Here's the thing, that reinforcing cycle doesn't have to always be downwards. Your leaders can halt it and even reverse it, building confidence over time. You know, as entrepreneur and author Nat Eliason says, our self-image is composed of historical evidence of our abilities. The more hard things you push yourself to do, the more confident you perceive yourself to be. You see, the more you lean into hard things, the more capable and confident you become. So leaning in, what does that look like? You know, if you're looking to lean into hard things at work and getting your team to lean into them as well, well, there's two key things I think that are absolute necessity if you're going to do it well and successfully. The first is always focus on the long term. If you continually focus on the short term, all you see is the hard thing right in front of you. But if you are seemingly, well, those hardships, the harmful things, they often repel people back. But by focusing on the long term, all right, the thing that's in front of you, you see the strength and the capability and the growth that's on the other side. It's not going to repel you, but it's a compelling future that pulls you forward. So focusing on the long term, absolutely critical. The next thing you need to provide is some scaffolding and support. You know, this includes preparation and planning beforehand. Whatever the hard thing might be, make sure you're prepared. It might be some advice and guidance that you give your team before they have a difficult conversation or do a difficult thing. Or maybe it's the advice or guidance that you receive from a mentor or colleague before you do it. You know, maybe the debrief afterwards is super important, and discussing what actually happened and how they went and what they could do better. It consolidates the learning. It also celebrates the courage that people have shown in order to tackle that hard thing. So my question to you is this. There's a hard conversation that you've been avoiding. What is it? You know the one. It's that one that's hard for you to initiate, to hold your team accountable and to push them to do something difficult. That one, the one that's in your head right now. My question is, when are you going to have